Hi, my name's Al and today I'm going to talk you through some of the geometry changes that you can make to your bike. When we talk about altering the geometry of a bike, we're not talking about fitting higher handlebars or moving your saddle around or anything like that. We're talking about actually changing the length and angles of your bike's frame, or at least how it sits by changing other components that might affect it. So there's lots of things that we can do without having to buy a whole new bike. So when you read about all the new bikes that are out, you'll often hear about geometry being more progressive. It might be longer, lower, slacker. Whilst that's great, it can be tricky on a limited budget to keep up with such things. So we can change things on our existing bike without breaking the bank. Whether it's for the better or not, that's up to you to decide should you go ahead and try any of them yourself. But you can always try and ride other people's bikes, test ride other bikes in the shop to get a feel for the kind of changes that you might like on your own bike. The most simple change that you could make, which is going to change the way that your bike handles, is to fit a bigger front tyre. So if your front tyre is bigger than the one that you've got on there now, it will effectively lengthen the distance from the head tube to the ground, which is going to slacken the head angle of the bike. It will also raise the bottom bracket slightly because the whole front of the bike will come up. You could counteract that by dropping a little bit of pressure in your shock. As long as you're finding you're not bottoming it out harshly, you should be able to get away with that. That's probably the simplest thing that you can try. One of the cheapest as well. Some bikes have some kind of geometry adjustment built in, so whether it's a chip that can be flipped around in the frame or an alternative position for the shock on the swing arm, then you can change the geometry of the bike without spending any money at all. So if you've got that option, then grab your Allen keys, swap things around, try it back to back on your favourite bit of trail, and see which you prefer best. Dead easy. If you don't have any such adjustments on your bike, you could get yourself a pair of these. So these are offset bushes. They fit into your rear shock, obviously no good on a hardtail, but if you've got a full suspension bike, fit these to your rear shock and it will effectively shorten the eye to eye of the shock. So you won't lose any travel, but the bike will sit lower. And what that means is you'll get a slacker head angle and a lower bottom bracket, which is generally seen as a favourable thing for descending. This is a pretty good value way to change the geometry on your bike. A pair of these is going to cost about 24 quid. Now, the big difference with these, what's going to affect how well they work or how much difference they have when you fit them, is the size of the hardware. So generally bikes will have 6, 8 or 10 mil hardware, and I don't know if you can see these, but we've got a 6 mil and an 8 mil, and you can see that where the center of the bolt would be on the 6 mil bush is a lot further away from the center than it is on the 8 mil. And on a 10 mil, which is what this bike's got actually, then there's hardly any difference at all. So you're only talking enough shrinkage in the eye to eye to get about half a degree of change at the head angle if you fit a pair of these. Whereas with the 6 mil, then you're looking at about 1.5 degrees, which is quite a lot. So you might even only want to fit one because they are available singly. Another thing that we can do is, as long as you don't have an integrated headset, so that's a headset where the bearings drop straight into the frame, then you can fit different headsets which will change either the length of the bike, and including the wheelbase, the reach, the lot, or the angle of the forks, the head angle. So we have angle sets, which we've fitted before. We've done a video on that. And what they do is they're angled cups, and they use the extra space that's inside the head tube to allow the fork to sit at more of an angle. So that can give us a slacker head angle. On this bike, what we've done is we've fitted a reach adjust headset. So this headset's from Works Components, and it adds 5mm to the length of the bike. So the wheelbase, the reach is all lengthened on this bike. It works by putting the bearings outside of the head tube. So they sit within these cups here, and they're offset further forward by 5mm. So it's really important that they're set up dead in line, otherwise you might get some quirky handling characteristics. Now it's pretty long anyway. It's a large Mondraker Foxy, so it's 501mm reach. It's a bit bigger now, which works for me because I've got a freakishly long upper body. So all these things you can do to your bike to customize it and make it fit you better. The headset on this bike, it was pretty had it anyway. Tyres are consumables, as are bushes. So you might have needed to replace these items anyway, and you get to play around with the geometry and fit of your bike, which is pretty awesome, and it doesn't cost that much money. So why don't you go out there, have a bit of a play around, see how you can change your bike, have a bit of fun, going at the trails. Thanks for watching. See you next time.